What's going on, guys? You're listening to The Engine on YouTube. Johnny Fogel, Nick Freeman, Nick Falk, and we've got a very special guest for you today. We're joined today by the play-by-play announcer for the Chicago White Sox, Jason Benetti. Jason grew up a Sox fan in the South Suburban Homewood Flossmoor. He attended Syracuse University and received his law degree from Wake Forest University. After stops as a play-by-play announcer for the Syracuse Chiefs and at High Point University, he has called games for Fox Sports, Westwood One, and ESPN. He calls college football and basketball games and has been paired with legendary college commentators, including White Sox and Cubs great Steve Stone and NBA champion Bill Walton. Jason Benetti, welcome to The Engine. How you doing, man?
Good. I don't know anything about cars, so I hope I'm fit to be on the engine.
It's just a play on words, NJN sounds like engine.
Nick, Johnny.
Oh, I see. It's a letter.
Yeah.
This is actually the first on the show that we've explained that.
Hey, see, the curiosity does wonders, right?
Yeah, Chauncey Billups didn't even ask, so glad to get you on the show. But we've got a lot of questions for you. Glad to have you on the show. Thank you for taking time out of your day. And let's get it going.
First off, how have you been? How's your quarantine?
Thank you for asking. I'm good. I have had a busier schedule the last couple days than I expected. I've been doing a lot of play-by-play of video games, it seems, which is hilarious. As we tape this, yesterday I did a rehearsal of a simulation for this thing we did today. We're doing play-by-play of MLB The Show. Chuck Garfien and I are sideline reporter for the White Sox. We're doing a game every week, so we did that. That went out today. Yesterday I was on Lucas Giolito's Twitch stream. Through Discord. He invited me to just ramble with him and do play-by-play. So I was on with Lucas and talking about video games, and then I'm doing a thing tonight with the Cespedes Family Barbecue guys. If you follow them on Twitter, they love baseball and they're playing Backyard Baseball, the video game. And so we're just gonna talk over that. So life's been good. I've been healthy. Was negative for COVID-19. Everything's good.
That's good to hear. So, first off, as an announcer, how did this all start for you? How did you know you wanted to get into it as a child?
Oh, wow. So I was fortunate enough to have a good high school radio station, one of the best in the area and in the country. Homewood Flossmoor. HF has WHFH, so I got to do play-by-play of football and basketball and baseball at HF. And then I went to Syracuse where I got to do football, basketball, and lacrosse. And I got all these chances to do games early on. And I just kind of figured out that I loved doing it. So a lot of it was simply just learning through my high school radio station that I really enjoyed doing it. And then I'd do play-by-play of video games in my room. So I'm perfectly equipped for play-by-play of video games as a career.
Yeah, that's funny. Full circle right there.
Yeah.
And then, so as baseball has been delayed this season, and since you're the White Sox announcer, what do you want to happen with baseball this season, and what do you think the MLB should do?
Yeah, it is so tough to know what people should do right now, just because the number one is do whatever you do safely. But we need, every report about the major league season possibly happening, whether it's Arizona, home ballparks, Arizona, Florida combination, it all requires testing. We have to know where the virus is. We have to know where it's taking hold. And we have to know if players have it because they're going to give it to other players and staff members. So number one is testing. We have to have testing based on all the scientific research that I've heard and what Dr. Fauci is saying and all the scientists. I'm listening to science here, and I think the sports are doing the same. And so if the science comes along and the supply chain of everything we need for these tests gets us to that point, then we play. If it's not there, if the science isn't there and the testing's not there, and it's not safe to play, you don't play. I know hot take theater. I know everybody's supposed to have an opinion. At some point, it's science, and we just gotta listen to science here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, growing up a White Sox fan, is it ever difficult to not root for the White Sox during a live broadcast?
I'm always kind of rooting for the Sox, and I think that's fine as the local announcer. Like, if I'm doing a Sox game on ESPN, that's a different story. Like, I can't be rooting openly, but that situation likely wouldn't happen because I'd be doing the Sox broadcast for the Sox. So, no, I mean, I get excited when the Sox win, and I think I should get excited for the Sox win. That's part of the reason I have the job, I think, is because I grew up in the South suburbs and went to then Comiskey, now Guaranteed Rate Field. So, it's not hard to, because I don't want to lose that fandom. I want it in me.
Okay, yeah, that's actually pretty interesting how you can still show some bias or at least root for your team during it. And then, what's your favorite sport to call and why?
Right now, video games. I really enjoy video games. Favorite sport is hard because I love the fact that with college football season, I get to go hang out with my crew every week and we do a different game. So like same analyst, same sideline reporter, same producer, same director. There's a nice rhythm to doing a game every day with the same people. Basketball is so quick and you get to have a little bit more fun in the game because it's so quick. But baseball for me, with a team is so fun because I get to know the players. Like I know what Tim Anderson's thinking because of his facial expression. Like I know if this guy throws him a slider here, he's really likely to swing or not based on knowing Tim. And so getting familiar with the players and working for a team gives you the best information to do the game in the most detailed way. And so that's what I love about doing the Sox.
Mm-hmm. What has been the most memorable sports game that you have announced?
Memorable sports game I've announced. We got any Cub fans on here? Okay. So I'm sad to say, for your sake, that one of the most memorable, if not the most memorable, games I've called was the 2018 wild card game in the National League when the Cubs lost to the Rockies in extra innings. It was our first. Sorry, dude. It was our first game that we ever did at ESPN, the StatCast version of the broadcast. So we're diving deeper into stats, and it was so fun with that group of the three of us and our production crew. I was on such a high after that game because of what we did and what we thought we did for covering baseball on television. I was on such a high, like I didn't go to bed until about 4:30 in the morning because I was just so into the game and I was so into the telecast and like reading what people thought of it because I didn't really have Twitter open during the game, reading that people enjoyed it and we had put so much work into it. It was one of those moments career-wise that I was like, man, we did something great today. And it felt like this whole team thing. And sorry, the Cubs lost.
Was it hard not to root against the Cubs in that game?
Yeah, I'm not really that guy. Like, I know Sox fans hate the Cubs. I get it. I like, especially right now when we all have to be indoors and we're all in the same city dealing with all the same stuff from this virus. Like, I am big on Chicago being the best sports city in the country and the best baseball city in the country. And the reason I think that is because, yes, there's this hatred, but when something like this happens, people come together. Like I've gotten some notes from Cub fans during this that have been some of the greatest notes I've ever gotten. And Len Casper is one of my best friends in the world, the Cubs TV guy. So there are people over there who I like, and I'm not one of those hateful guys, but I did show up wearing my White Sox credential. I had my whole Major League Baseball season credential attached to my White Sox credential. And one of the beat writers took a picture of my White Sox credential and said something like, "Who is he going to be rooting for tonight?" So there were some Cub fans that were a little displeased that they heard my voice, but generally I don't root against the Cubs unless the Sox are playing the Cubs.
I like that. And then we know you've announced many sports games with NBA legend Bill Walton, and we've seen him do some crazy stuff in the booth. We have to ask, what is the craziest Bill Walton story you have?
Craziest Bill Walton story I have. Well, from baseball, I did a dumb thing. There was a play in that game we did in Anaheim where James McCann, I think it was James McCann, was sliding into third, hand first. And there was a tag play where the third baseman, I think it was David Fletcher, tried to tag McCann, and he kind of swam over the tag. And then there was an instant replay review, and we had the camera in the booth. So I decided that it would be a bright idea for me to try to reenact that swim move with Bill. The problem is, yeah, he might be older now. He still was a Hall of Fame athlete. And so he had a glove and I had a ball, or the other way around. And I tried to do the swim move, and he hit my arm. And when he hit my arm, I was like, ugh! Nah. It's bony strong. Like, what are we doing here? And I was like, that is a really bad idea. But the other crazy Walton story is we were doing a basketball game this year, and I wore a Jerry Garcia Grateful Dead tie for him.
Oh,
so I wear the I think you saw. I wear the tie, and Bill asked me how I know it's a Jerry Garcia tie. I said, well, his signature's on it. Bill grabbed my tie and licked my tie. Then he goes, yeah, that's a Jerry. Like, he knew the taste of a Jerry Garcia tie. You sign up for the crazy, but you don't know what crazy you're going to get.
That's good TV right there.
It's fantastic. Not sanitary at all. Like, I went to my dry cleaner afterward and picked up my dry cleaning, and I was like, why is there a tie in my dry cleaning? Oh, right, it got licked. Great.
All right. Nice to meet you, Jason. My first question is there any sports broadcaster or sports announcer that you looked up to as a kid?
A bunch of them. Hawk Harrelson first, the guy who I replaced with the Sox. He was like the first guy that I started to imitate. And then when I got to college, I learned about guys like Sean McDonough, Ian Eagle, Brian Anderson from the Brewers is one of my favorites. But yeah, Sean was one of the first people. The guy who does Big Monday for ESPN was on Monday Night Football. He was one of the first people to kind of tell me, like, hey, you can do this at a high level. Costas has been somebody like that for me, too. So there have been a bunch.
Do you have a favorite call or announcer moment?
Favorite call or announcer moment? With the Sox, it was Tim Anderson's home run to beat the Tigers last year, right after he had the whole bat flip hullabaloo with the Royals. Because it was one of those moments where you're like, oh, that felt so good for Tim. Like, I'm just so excited for Tim. There was also a fake punt in a game like 4 years ago. I did Boise State and BYU, and BYU fake punted from their own like 18-yard line on 4th and 22. And when they did it, like, my reaction, if I could have said, what the F are they doing? Like, I would have said that, but my reaction was basically like, oh no, like, what is this? And it was one of those moments that I was like, wow, that is one of the wildest things that I've ever seen. And then the last one that comes to mind is Bryce Harper's show that he put on in the Home Run Derby in 2018. That was our first StatCast show. And just to be in Nats Park with the swell of the energy every time he labeled another ball, it was awesome.
That's pretty amazing. How do you prepare and practice to announce different sporting events?
Yeah, the preparation, I do a lot of like building of documents in Microsoft Word. I build a big chart for all the games I do for football and basketball. I color code it based on certain things that draw my eye. And then a lot of the preparation is talking to coaches, talking to players, and getting their knowledge of what happened last game and backstories of them and things like that. So access with the players has been huge, but also just the preparation of reading news stories, reading biographical stuff, and then building it into a board. Or like for baseball, I have just a giant Word document with all the players in Major League Baseball, basically. And if, obviously if somebody gets called up during a series, I'll do a little more research and add that person. But for baseball, we have more time in between plays, so I don't need it at the ready as much. So I just have this big document and I hit Control F, and when that player comes up, there are all my notes. Like, I just search for the player's name and I find him there.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty good method. So say like a big home run happens, a flashy dunk, an impressive touchdown. Do you have any specific calls or phrases that you like to use?
I've never really been a big catchphrase guy. I've not really, especially Hawk Harrelson's, you can put it on the board is such a great home run call, and Hawks going into the Hall of Fame, I don't want to step on that in any way. And like trying to be better than you can put it on the board is a lost cause, because it was just so good and so unbelievable. And so I try to make my mark in different ways outside of catchphrases. So I've not really had that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So describe some ways you've used your position as the White Sox play-by-play announcer to influence the sports community in a positive way.
Oh, wow. I mean, I've gotten a lot of joy, and I think other people have gotten a lot of joy over what I've been doing on Twitter recently. Every night I'll read a couple of messages that people sent into my DMs from them to their loved ones, because we can't be with people right now. So I kind of wanted to contribute by making sure people didn't feel alone. So I think that's been a contribution of mine recently that I'm pretty proud of.
Yeah, that's really nice. So we read that you grew up idolizing the 90s Chicago Bulls teams. The documentary on ESPN is coming up, The Last Dance. What aspects of the 98 Chicago Bulls teams are you excited to find out?
I'm here for all the Jordan motivational stuff. Like I know that Michael Jordan was so self-motivated. I just want to hear how self-motivated he was. And I'm also here to hear about the random names of like the guys who played really small roles but meaningful roles. Like I want a section about Luke Longley. I want a section about Bill Wennington. Like I want a lot of discussion about the guys who didn't make the big splashes either. And I hope Scottie Pippen gets his due too, because Scottie was an amazing player, an amazing defender. And if there's a little section on Dennis Rodman and how crazy he was, I'd be in for that too.
Yeah, I think we're all excited.
So I'm a LeBron guy. They're both Jordan guys. I'm assuming you're a Jordan guy, right?
Yeah, I'm going to be Bill Walton here. I don't live in a binary world. Picking one or the other isn't something that I choose to do. They're both great. Can they both be great? Is that okay? Is that like, sorry, hot take theater, but like, I think they're both great. I'd love to see them play in their primes. And I grew up in Chicago, so I gravitate toward Michael. But LeBron's amazing. I mean, he's amazing. He's done so much for the community. Like, I'm not going to pick. I want a sports talk show where you get to say both as every answer.
I'm not,
Nobody would watch.
I don't think anybody's ever heard that. It's unique. It's unique. I can give you that.
You sometimes got to respect greatness.
Yeah.
Can't they both be good? Like, is that a problem? I don't know who I'm talking to.
So I've read it a couple of times, and I kind of want to hear you say it. How did playing the tuba land you in the White Sox press box?
That's funny. So I used to play the tuba, and then we had marching band in high school, and me carrying the tuba would have been a terrible idea because I would have tipped over and broken something on myself or otherwise. So the band director was like, hey, instead of you marching in place with the tuba on a stand, you should go up to the press box and announce our sets. So the first time I ever announced anything was the sets from the HF band in the press box at HF football games.
That's so I got a chance this year to watch HF play against Loyola this year, and HF I think was number 5 in the state in basketball. Were they as good? They won by like 20, 30 points, but were they as good when you were in high school at basketball and sports?
Yeah, they were. The basketball was really good. TJ Cummings, who ended up playing at UCLA, was in school when I was in school, and TJ was great. But it was also difficult to win the conference because Eddie Curry was at Thornwood at the time. Ooh. And Eddie Curry, he was big when he got into the NBA, but you watch him posting up some like junior who's going to go be an econ major. Like, it was ugly. It was like a wrecking ball against G.I. Joe. It was not good. So watching Eddie Curry play against guys who just looked like they were 30 years younger than him was terrifying. But HF was good, but Thornwood was better.
So I'm gonna go back to what we were talking about earlier with Bill Walton. So you announced with legendary Cy Young Award winner Steve Stone, and you even announced the baseball game with basketball legend Bill Walton. Is there anyone else in the future you would like to call a game with?
Comedian John Mulaney
That's interesting.
would be number one. John Mulaney is my idol. I think John Mulaney has the best comedic timing of anybody I've ever heard in my generation, at least. But he is so clever, so sharp. And I wish John Mulaney was a White Sox fan, because I would do everything I could to get John Mulaney in the booth to do a game and just let him riff, because I think he's an absolute genius.
You think you would do a good job as a color commentator?
He does a great job at everything. Like the Stefan skit that Bill Hader did on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
John Mulaney wrote those, and he would change something every time before they went out to do it live to make Bill Hader laugh. He'd always change one of the nouns, and like Hader would read it and lose his mind every time. He's a genius.
Is that your favorite skit or like work of his, or do you have a favorite work of his?
The bit that he does, the stand-up bit he does about putting like 7 quarters into a jukebox at a Salt and Pepper diner near Wrigley, and it's the same song over and over again that Tom Jones played, What's New Pussycat? And then, like 5 plays in, they put in one, It's Not Unusual. So the whole diner's going crazy because it's the same song over and over again. And then they get like this reprieve because it's a different song. And then it goes back and everybody goes insane. I think it's the best comedy bit of all time. But his Netflix special called The Sack Lunch Bunch that just came out over the past couple of months is amazing too. He's a genius.
I know we all have some time, so maybe I'll go check that out later. But I was going through Twitter and I saw somebody say that the next Chicago sports team to win a championship will be the Chicago White Sox. Do you believe that?
Yeah, give me that right now. I'm in. We got enough young talent, right? Like I am so sad about this season not happening on time as I look out the window, because I thought something was brewing, and it still is. Like, we're going to have baseball at some point, but I wish it would have happened on time, because these guys were about to, I think, surprise some people.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the Bulls not being up to par as people expect them to be, and especially with the Cubs disappointing last year and the Chicago Bears, whatever with the Chicago Bears, I think the White Sox definitely had a chance this year. But so I've got one more question for you to be respectful of your time, because we know you're a busy guy. So I'm a young and up-and-coming radio announcer. I call play-by-play basketball games and football games. And we have a weekly radio show, the 2 other people on this show with me, similar to what you did in high school. Along with that, you were a college professor at different broadcast schools across the country. What advice do you have for someone who aspires to have a career in sports broadcasting?
Do it a lot. But while you're doing it a lot, like if you love play-by-play, right now is actually not a terrible time, because you can sit at home and do play-by-play of games off your screen and have it not, like, we have enough technology for you to make tapes of games. Do it, and then ask people to listen to it and listen to their advice. Don't ask people for advice and then like kind of disagree, because they're the audience. Like, you asked them for the advice because you're interested in them and what they do, and you think they're good. So when you get that advice, apply it to the next tape you make, and do it really immediately. Like, test out the advice right away, because that's the way we get better and better at this.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned announcing video games, because like I know a lot of kids, I know we talked about it yesterday when we were Zoom calling, when we were talking about this interview, like you play basketball outside as a kid, you announce yourself playing basketball. Like, that's a thing that everybody does. Yeah. I think people heard Colin Cowherd talk about it last year. Like, once he got to play-by-play announcing, he was so far ahead of everybody because he was announcing himself playing video games, announcing himself playing basketball in his driveway. I think that people can really surprise themselves if they really just gave themselves a chance to play-by-play announce.
It's absolutely true, but you also have to be very thoughtful about it. Like, it's not just say whatever you want to say. Like, there are rules that you create for yourself. Like, I have a bunch of rules in my mind, and I apply them when I need to apply them, but I break them when I need to break them. But you have to learn the rules in the first place before you go ahead and break them, because if you don't, you're going to be breaking rules at the wrong time. So it's much more technical at first, and then it's about really letting your personality flow once you figure out those technical details.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like when I'm playing outside, though, I might break those rules a little and have the buzzer beater on every shot.
Well, look, nobody's ever going to get mad at you for being too excited.
That's a good way to think about it. Jason Benetti, we had so much fun having you on the show. You're a delight. Thank you so much. We consider you a friend of the show. You're welcome back anytime. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Have a good rest of your quarantine. Hope to get you back on the show soon. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.
Y'all